So today we will start with recovery scenario and cleanup scenario. So a recovery scenario in the sense sometimes when we are executing the test cases or even when we are doing it manually, we will get some intermittent issue. It's not about the application. We would get some random pop-ups or something while we are testing the application. So at that time, when we are doing it uh, on Tosca or any automation tool, sometimes the execution of test case will be affected. Like it would stop executing. It would not be able to go to the next step and all. So sometimes we know, right? Well, when we are working in an application, we know some in some page we would get some error or we would get some intermittent issue. So that time, in order to do it automatically, sometimes what we will be doing when we are doing it manually, we will do when we would ignore that intermittent issue and we will go to the next step. So in the same step, if you want to do it automatically, like in Tosca, if you are executing the test case and without manual intervention, I want to ignore the issue and I want to go to the next step in the particular test case. That time I can use the recovery scenario. So the recovery scenario helps Tosca to retry the test case, retry the test step or test step value within our test case. So I'll tell you how we can have the recovery scenario and we'll see with an example from demo option. Okay, so if you take demo app shop, okay, sorry, okay. I have logged in now as myself. I have logged into the Deborah Web Shop application, and if I am not logging out and directly closing the browser, closing the application page, and if I'm trying to open it again, you can see it's coming as logged in already. It's not showing me the login page. So just assume uh, you are closing the browser without logging out the application, and the next day or the another time you are executing the test case directly, um, which has the logging in steps. So you are directly executing the test case. So if you in the logging in step, we would have the open browser thing and everything, right? So what would happen, it would open the browser and it would see this page, not the login page. So it will not be able to see the login link or anything. It would not be seen. Actually it's not the issue, but because of the thing what we didn't log out, so we are not getting the login page next time. So this is one intermittent thing we have in remote shop. So we'll create the recovery scenario for this example. So trying to log in for the browser where we closed without logout. So mm, I'm adding. Okay, we'll add the test tape from here. Open URL. Image. Open URL, clicking on login, entering login. So this is the login test case, and we are trying to add the recovery scenario for login. Okay. So in order to create the recovery scenario, we have to right click on the test case for which we want to add the recovery scenario, and mm, if you click on a create option, you can see create recovery scenario collection. So this is the folder under which we can create the recovery scenarios. So I'm creating the recovery scenario collection folder, and under this we can add the scenario that would help this particular test case to be recovered when it is getting failed because of some intermittent issue. So we can have as much as recovery scenario we want to add to the particular test case. So I'm adding one recovery scenario first. So how we will be adding the recovery scenario means, so we have to guess kind of. Okay, so how we will be adding the recovery scenario? So so in our scenario, um, sometimes we are not getting the login link. Instead, we are already getting the logged in application. So the recovery scenario may be, so we are getting this page after opening the browser. We are getting this page. So we are not able to click on the login link. We are not able to see the login link. So one recovery scenario may be I have to log out and I have to try it again. I have to try. So one recovery scenario. Okay, we'll add the recovery scenario like clicking on logout button and trying to do the step from here. So as I'm adding the clicking on logout button as the recovery scenario.
Okay.
Vad satte vi då namnet?
তোমার নাম আছে
Vad namnet?
মনে হয় নাই
Parents namnet. Tagas Tinder Tinder. Apa WhatsApp.
ও শুট
Logout. So one recovery scenario I've added as clicking on logout. So we'll try with this and we'll tell you another things from related to recovery scenario. So and one more thing regarding recovery scenario and even cleanup scenario, these two things will be working only in the execution section where we do the final execution, not in the scratch book where we are doing some temporary trial and error thing. So in Scratchbook, it will not recovery scenario will not work. So in final execution only it will work. So I'm moving this test case to execution section. So tomorrow we will be seeing about execution section. So today I'm just directly dragging and dropping and I'm doing the and I'm executing it directly. So tomorrow I'll tell you about execution section. Okay, so I have added the recovery scenario test case to the execution section. So I'm going to close this page without logging out. So we'll see. I'm running it. Even wrong URL, I guess. Okay, I have given the wrong URL. Okay, um, okay. So now we could see first it opened the URL and it was trying to click on the login button, but it couldn't see any login link. So it executed the recovery scenario, which is logging out the application, and it again tried from the open URL. And so now you can see there was two application opened, uh, like demo workshop in two tabs. So it was confused between two tabs. So Tosca was confused between two tabs. So in recovery scenario, we can like add one more step, like closing the browser also after logging out. So we can add like that. So after clicking on logout, I guess we should have the close browser thing also. So it would be running properly after executing the recovery scenario. We can have close the browser. Then then giving one. So the application's title that as demo, and after that whatever will be closed. So now if we are executing, it will be properly executed. So this is how the recovery scenario will work. Like whenever some issue is getting, and the recovery scenario will come to the picture, and we can have as much as recovery scenario we want. So, for example, I can have another scenario like, for example, just closing the browser. So we can have as much as recovery scenario in our recovery scenario collection. And in the property side, if we see for each recovery scenario, we have one option retry level. So we have three options in retry level. One is test case, another is test type, and next is test type value. So which means if I am setting the retry level as test case and I'm getting and if I'm getting it would execute the recovery scenario, and when it is re-executing the test cases, it would retry from the test case level, which means it would execute all the steps which are present in a login test case. And if I'm setting the retry level as test type, and if it is getting failed, if the test case is getting failed, but it is getting failed in the second test step, not in the first test step. In open URL, I'm not getting error. I'm just getting error in clicking on login link test step. So while retrying, what it would do, it would retry from the test step level. From clicking on login link, it would retry if I have set the retry level as test step. And if I have set the retry level as test step value, and for example, I have one test step value register, which is I am verifying inner text of the register, and I'm getting the error in login link. I'm getting the error in, for example, I'm getting the error only in the login link. So what it would do, it after executing the recovery scenario, it would retry from this test step value where it got failed. And from login test step value, even it would not execute the register tested value. So this is the retry level. A different retry level we can set for our recovery scenario. So and and one more thing. So recovery scenario, the scenarios that are present in this collection will be executed in the hierarchy of, uh, first it will prioritize the tested value in the recovery scenario that has the retry level as tested value, and then it will go to the test step and then test case. So the hierarchy is that tested value first, and second test step, and third test case. So for example, I have set the retry level for a recovery scenario as tested value, and for recovery scenario underscore one, I have set the retry level as test case. So what it would do is Tosca will execute will it will execute the recovery scenario for this recovery scenario, the first recovery scenario, which has the retry level tested value, and it would retry the thing. It would retry the failed test step value, but and if it is not working, it would go to the next recovery scenario. So this is the hierarchy: first test step value, then test step, then test case. So I'll add one thing. Maybe you can add, but we know, right? Sometimes some in some particular page you would be getting the random pop-ups or some issue like um, Sometimes the page will be loading very slow. So we know, right, some when we are working in some application, we would feel like we have to add the recovery scenario here, because we are getting some intermittent issue as often. So for that particular test case, we can add the recovery scenario if you want, because I guess that would be the best thing. If we are adding a recovery scenario to all the test case, I'm not sure. It would be very complex, I guess.
Okay.
For the test case that is needed, you can. Okay. So recovery scenario and cleanup scenario is additional thing. So it's not like mandatory thing you should add to test case. It's the additional thing.
Okay.
Okay, so in first recovery scenario, we have clicking on logout and close browser. So I've set it as tested value. Uh, okay, it will fail. Okay, so I'm setting this tested scenario as test case. Okay, and test case and tested value. Okay, logout, close browser should not be. Okay, so I have given. Okay, I'll set it as tested value. Close browser and open UI. Okay, so I have two recovery scenario. One is clicking on logout and it would retry from tested, which means clicking on login in. And I have one more scenario, closing the browser and opening the URL without logging on, just closing the browser and opening the URL. And I have set the retry level as tested value. Um, so, and it would execute the first for the first time recovery scenario underscore one, and it would be failed. The recovery scenario would be failed, and we are this first recovery scenario should be executed. So this is the expected thing. So we'll say that. So we'll execute it. Closing it. executing the first recovery scenario. Sorry, recovery scenario underscore one. Okay. So first recover, we could see it executed the first recovery scenario which has test step value, and it tried again, so it couldn't see the register link. So when it is logged in, we couldn't see the register button. So it tried to verify the register button, but it is not there. So it executed the first recovery scenario, which has the retry level as test step value, and it tried again the from the test step value. Again, it couldn't see the register link. So it executed the recovery scenario, which has the test step, which has the retry level as test step. So it executed it and it tried from the test step where it got failed. So clicking on login link, so it didn't execute the open URL test step. It directly went to the test step where it was failed, where we were getting the error. So it from the registered login it executed, and finally it logged in successfully. So it executed this recovery scenario underscore one first, and it retried from the register link, so it was not working. So it executed the recovery scenario, and it retried from the test step, clicking on login link test step. So this is how recovery scenario will be working, and we have in the recovery scenario we have another one thing called cleanup scenario. So cleanup scenario in the sense, so recovery scenario is retrying to fix the test step or test case that is getting error. It's retrying in all the way whatever we have given in the recovery scenario, and it's trying to make it pass. That cleanup scenario, what it would do is, it would after all the recovery scenarios are executed, and even though we are getting some error in our test case, a cleanup scenario would try to reset the application to uh, the state where, and the next test case we can execute without any issue. So for example, I have login test case, and after this test case, I have one more test case. Just assume I have one more test case, um, like okay, test case. What we can do? Okay, I have one more test case like um, clicking on this mail ID. Okay, so this is the one test case. After logging in, I want to click on this account and I want to do something here. Just assume that I have the test case of clicking going to the account thing as the next test case after login. So this is the mail ID link. So I have to click on this. So this is the next step. So I have the next test case as clicking on account. So what cleanup scenario would do is, if the test case is getting failed even after I'm executing all the recovery scenarios, cleanup scenario will try to make the application in order so that the next test case will be executing without any uh, abstraction kind of. Um, so I'm adding cleanup scenario. So cleanup scenario can be added within the recovery scenario collection. So just right click on that and you can see create cleanup scenario. And we can also have cleanup scenario as much as we want. And there is no hierarchy here for the cleanup scenario. It would be executed in top to bottom approach. So for example, we can have the cleanup scenario like, so first we'll change the recovery scenario in some way. So uh, it would not be passed. The test case would not be passed. So this is okay. I'm changing it to mm, okay. I'm changing it to test case. I'm changing it to test case. So again, we will be getting some error. So that time cleanup scenario will be coming up. So what error I will be getting is, so as I have set the retry level as test case and I have just logging out, there will be two application open. So Tosca will be confused between two tabs. So again, I will be getting the error. So that time cleanup scenario will be popping up. So in the cleanup scenario, I can have the close browser as the cleanup scenario. Close up and after closing up, in order to execute the next test step, we want to again open it and we have to do all this so that we can execute the next test step. So I've added the cleanup scenario as closing the browser and again opening the URL and logging in. So even if the cleanup scenario is not working, it's getting failed means the whole test case will be like it will be failed.
So what is the if I don't do the recovery scenario, can I do the only cleanup scenario?
Cleanup scenario, yeah, you can do that.
I mean,
Or actually, if without, yeah, you can add. If there is no recovery scenario, it would be directly executing the cleanup scenario and it would go to the next test step. It would not retry to make it pass. One minute. You're not adding the Okay, so I'll be executing him. We'll see how the cleanup scenario is.